Analysis of wine, sulfur dioxide determination of wine sample. Decant some of the wine to be analysed into a beaker. Also decant some of the hydrogen peroxide into a beaker. Using a micropipette, transfer 10 millilitres of the hydrogen peroxide into a pear-shaped flask. Add 2 to 3 drops of the methylene blue-red indicator to the hydrogen peroxide. If the resultant colour is purple or dark green, add 1 to 2 drops of sodium hydroxide until a bright green colour is achieved. Using a micropipette, transfer 10 millilitres of the wine into a round bottom flask. Transfer the round bottom flask to a heating mantle and proceed to assemble the distillation apparatus as demonstrated. A diagram of the setup is demonstrated in your practical manual. Ensure all of the seals of the apparatus are tight so that the sulfur dioxide does not escape through any loose seals. Add 10 millilitres of phosphoric acid into the flask. Also add a couple of boiling chips at this point. Connect the aspirating hose to the air supply and turn on the air to begin aspiration of the sample. The sample will bubble. You'll also notice bubbling of the hydrogen peroxide in the pear-shaped flask. Aspirate the sample for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, you should notice a colour change of the hydrogen peroxide from bright green to purple, indicating the sulfur dioxide has been aspired over. Turn off the air. Transfer some sodium hydroxide to a rinsed and purged burette. For instructions on how to do this, refer to the video Performing a Titration. Record the initial volume of sodium hydroxide in the burette. Remove the pear-shaped flask from the apparatus and place it into a beaker. Remove the bubbling tube from the flask and rinse the inside and outside of the tube with some distilled water. Proceed to titrate the sulfur dioxide in the pear-shaped flask with the sodium hydroxide until the colour changes from purple to the initial bright green colour. Record the titer value. The total titer volume is then used to calculate the amount of free sulfur dioxide in the wine sample. Reconnect the pear-shaped flask to the apparatus to now determine the bound sulfur dioxide in the sample. Turn the air on again to aspirate the same wine sample. This time you need to apply heat to the sample by turning on the heating mantle to approximately 6 of the heating dial. Allow the wine sample to boil for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, turn off the air and the heat and proceed to titrate the hydrogen peroxide in the pear-shaped flask with sodium hydroxide as demonstrated before. The solution will again change from purple to the original bright green colour. Multiply the titer volume of the first titration by 16 to calculate the concentration in parts per million of free sulfur dioxide in the sample. Multiply the titer volume of the second titration by 16 to calculate the concentration in parts per million of bound sulfur dioxide in the sample. Add together the free and bound sulfur dioxide concentrations obtained from both calculations in order to determine the total sulfur dioxide concentration in the sample.